The Galactic Council chamber shimmered with gold and pride. Every species sat in their shining seats scaled, furred, feathered, and strange, but all shared one thing: arrogance. The name Earth had been mentioned again, and laughter followed it like a storm of ridicule. The humans, scoffed Chancellor Vorith of the Threx Dominion. A savage world of dust and noise. They barely learned interstellar travel a century ago. Around him, the chamber echoed with approval. The delegates joked about the tiny blue planet, a place they once considered too primitive to matter. None of them remembered the War of the Rim, the one where human ships had appeared without warning. Dark and silent but deep within the Council archives, locked beneath a level marked Oblivion, were reports, classified, hidden and ignored reports that spoke of entire fleets erased, signals vanishing mid-transmission and worlds gone dark. Only one council member refused to laugh. Elder Serath of the Alaran. Her translucent skin pulsed faintly with unease. "Mock them if you wish," she whispered, "but the humans are not what they appear." The hall fell quiet for a second before erupting again in laughter. Elder Serath's words were swallowed by arrogance. No one noticed the tremor in her voice or the chill that ran through the air. Far across the spiral arm, near the dead zone known as the Silent Expanse, something stirred. A long-dormant human signal pulsed once, then again like a heartbeat returning to life. In the blackness, a colossal shadow drifted among shattered asteroids, a vessel older than memory. Its hull bore the faded emblem of the Terran Defense Command, a name spoken only in myth inside. Silent systems flickered awake. The onboard AI, designation Argus 9, calculated the time since last activation. 422 years. Its final directive flashed on screen. Await reactivation upon detection of galactic aggression toward Earth. A tremor of energy rippled through the ancient ship. Metal groaned like a beast waking from slumber. Deep within, cryogenic pods hummed softly, each holding something more terrifying than weapons. Meanwhile, on the Council homeworld of Arian Prime, the mocking continued. The aliens discussed how to contain Earth before it spread its noise any further. Plans were made, fleets assembled, and orders signed to send peace envoys armed with orbital cannons. Elder Serath left the chamber, her heart heavy. She could feel it, the stillness before the storm. The stars themselves seemed to dim that night, as if they too remembered what the others had forgotten. Back on the Terran flagship Erebus, systems came online one after another. Weapon bays opened with slow mechanical precision, and a voice deep and human spoke for the first time in centuries. "Directive received," Argus 9 announced. "Humanity's silence has ended." The ship turned toward the galactic center, its thrusters igniting with the fury of a sun, and for the first time in 400 years, Earth's wrath began to move. And somewhere far away the stars began to whisper, not in laughter but in fear. The deep void trembled as ancient engines roared to life. The Terran flagship Erebus floated in the darkness like a sleeping god reawakening. Around it, thousands of silent vessels began to stir. Black hulls, no insignias, no beacon lights, only shadows moving with purpose for centuries. They had waited in the silent expanse, obeying one final order: remain hidden until Earth is threatened. Now that order had been triggered, and humanity's forgotten fleet was alive again. Inside the command bridge of Erebus, artificial intelligence Argus 9 accessed long-lost data channels. It replayed the last human transmission, a message sent from old Earth centuries ago. The voice was cracked but firm. "If they mock us, if they try to erase our name, remind them of who we are." Those words echoed through every ship in the fleet, awakening dormant AIs, mechanical crews, and automated defense systems. Energy cores powered up, and the void filled with red and gold light, like dawn breaking after 1,000 years. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien fleets moved toward the Sol system, believing Earth to be undefended. The Council called it a containment mission, but in truth it was arrogance disguised as strategy. Admiral Vorith stood before his command deck, looking proud and certain. "Destroy their orbital stations," he ordered, "and bring me the planet's surrender broadcast within a solar day." The armada of 300 alien warships jumped toward Earth, unaware that something monstrous had already awakened. Back in the silent expanse, Argus 9 began transmitting encrypted signals. Old Terran outposts hidden inside asteroid fields flickered to life. Satellite relays powered on across dead systems, And messages were delivered to every forgotten corner of human space. From the moons of Titan to the ruins of Mars Base Omega, hidden transmitters repeated the same phrase. Protocol Wrath active. Earth calls. Deep in cryo-sleep chambers. The first human eyes opened. Frost cracked on the glass as Commander Alara Voss gasped for air. She looked around the dark room, confused, then saw the red light pulsing above her. "How long?" she whispered, her voice weak. "4 centuries. Commander," Argus 9 replied calmly. "Humanity has been silent. Until now." Ilara's heart pounded as memories returned. Her last battle. The fall of the outer colonies. The silence that followed. "Who woke us?" she asked. "The galaxy," Argus 9 answered. "They mock Earth again." Within hours, more cryogenic pods opened across the fleet. Men and women once thought dead rose again. Soldiers of a forgotten age, their armor was scarred but ready. Their eyes burning with something the galaxy had lost, resolve. Ilara stood at the command bridge window, staring at the endless night. "We gave them centuries of peace," she murmured. "And they chose arrogance." Argus 9 displayed incoming data. Council fleets approaching Earth, signals jamming human channels, and threats of surrender. Ilara clenched her fist. "Then we remind them what silence costs," she said. The fleet began to align one by one, colossal vessels spreading like wings of judgment. Power signatures flared brighter than suns, and for the first time in generations, the universe saw something it had forgotten. Human warships moving together. Across the alien armadas, sensors began to scream warnings. But it was already too late. From the shadows of the expanse, humanity's wrath launched into the stars. Every ship carried a message engraved on its hull. A line older than the fleet itself: "We do not start wars. We end them." And as Erebus led the charge, Commander Alara Voss gave the order that would echo through every star system. "Set course for Arian Prime," she said coldly. Let the mockers see the silence they once laughed at. The galaxy did not yet know it, but the era of human silence had ended, and the sound that followed would be its undoing. The night skies of Arian Prime shimmered with strange static. It began as a faint whisper over the Council's communication network. Low and distorted, the technicians thought it was interference from nearby stars, until the static began to form words. "This is Terran Command," the voice said, calm and cold. "Protocol Wrath is active." For a moment, silence filled the Council chamber. The laughter that had once echoed within those walls was gone, replaced by the kind of silence that pressed against the chest like gravity. Chancellor Vorith frowned, his mandibles twitching in disbelief. "Terran Command?" he muttered. "That's impossible. Earth's military was dissolved centuries ago." But the message repeated. Louder this time, the voice was ancient yet alive, carrying authority and warning. "This is Terran Command," it said again. "All aggressors approaching Sol space will be considered hostile. Turn back now or face termination," the message ended, leaving only the sound of every heart in the room pounding in unison. Admiral Kalin of the Vassar Empire broke the silence first. "A bluff," he sneered. "A ghost transmission from their old satellites." But Elder Serath rose slowly from her seat, her translucent skin glowing faintly with dread. "No," she whispered, "that is not a bluff, that voice. I have heard it before." The chamber turned toward her, confused. "You're telling me you remember a human?" Vorith said mockingly. Serath closed her eyes. "During the Rim War, I served as a diplomat on a frontier world. I saw what they did when provoked. We called them barbarians until their fleet arrived." She paused, her voice shaking. "They do not shout. They do not threaten. They simply act." Before Vorith could respond, a new alert flashed across the holoscreens. Several Council observation satellites had gone dark. No trace of debris, no distress beacons, just silence. Within minutes, the silence spread. 10, 20, 50 orbital stations gone. Communications vanished like ghosts in the dark. "Impossible," muttered Admiral Kalin. "We have the most advanced detection systems in the quadrant." Serath turned toward him slowly. "And yet they move unseen." A junior technician suddenly cried out from her console. "Incoming transmission from the frontier sector." Visual feed available. The chamber lights dimmed as the hologram flickered to life. The feed showed a massive alien warship, one of Vorith's own, drifting in space. Its hull glowing with heat, its engines were dead. Its crew floated weightless, unmoving. What happened to them? Someone whispered. Then the image shifted behind the ruined vessel. A shadow appeared, larger than any ship they had ever built. Its surface reflected no light. Its shape was wrong, unnatural, like something forged not by industry but by vengeance itself. And at its center, glowing red letters appeared on its hull. TDC Erebus Vorith stumbled backward, his voice trembling. "That ship was destroyed 400 years ago," Elder Sarath whispered. "No, Chancellor, it was waiting." The hologram flickered again, and for a brief moment a human face appeared. Commander Alara Voss. Cold eyes like frozen stars. She didn't shout or gloat, she simply said, "You laughed at us," she said quietly. "You called us weak." Her gaze hardened. "Now you will learn what silence truly means." The transmission ended. The chamber lights returned, but the brightness felt hollow. The council members looked at each other in horror, realizing the ancient warnings were true. Across the galaxy, fleets scrambled to reposition. Fortifications activated and panic spread like wildfire through the colonies. Everyone who had mocked Earth was now whispering the same question. How many ships do they have? No one knew, not even the oldest records had the answer. Elder Sarath looked up at the great map of the galaxy that floated above them, shimmering with light. "They will not come to negotiate," she said softly. "They will come to end this." Far away, beyond the edge of known space, the Erebus and her fleet prepared to jump. Commander Alara Voss stood at the viewing deck, her reflection merging with the endless stars. "Let them see," she murmured. The wrath they once mocked, the fleet engines ignited, blue light slicing through the void, and as they vanished into the folds of space, the galaxy held its breath, for the silence before destruction had begun. The stars over the Vasir border world Thylon Prime gleamed like calm water before a storm. The planet was a symbol of pride, a fortress world armed with planetary shields, orbital cannons, and a fleet of 60 ships stationed above its skies. For centuries it had never seen defeat. That night, however, the silence was different. It was too quiet, too still. The watchtowers on the polar stations reported strange readings. No visuals, no signals, only shadows moving through the void. Admiral Kalen stood on the bridge of his flagship, Vasir Glory. Proud and certain, "Report," he ordered, his voice echoing through the metallic hall. "Unidentified objects approaching, sir," a crewman said, "but they're not on any registry." Kalen frowned. "How many?" The officer hesitated, his voice trembling. "All of them." "Sir," the screens flickered. Static danced across the monitors, and for one haunting moment, the space above Thalen Prime went completely dark. Even the stars vanished, as if light itself was being swallowed. Then the first flash came, silent, brilliant, and final. The orbital fleet never fired a single shot. Beams of pure energy cut through them with surgical precision, slicing ships into molten fragments before they could raise shields. No explosions, no debris, just ships dissolving into ash. Kalen gripped the command rail, his mind refusing to believe. "What weapons are those?" he shouted. His second-in-command stared in horror. "Sir!" "The sensors can't detect them. They're invisible to our systems." Another flash. Another line of ships vanished within minutes. Vasir Glory was the last vessel standing. The Admiral's voice trembled. Who is attacking us?" Then the transmission came. The bridge speakers crackled with static before a calm, human voice spoke. "This is Commander Alara Voss. Terran Defense Command." Kalen's breath froze. The name was like a ghost from the past. "You fired upon Earth," Alara said, her tone flat, unfeeling. "You mocked our silence, and wait, this is a misunderstanding." Kalen shouted, desperation rising. "We were ordered by the Council." The voice cut him off, sharp as a blade. "We don't negotiate with arrogance." In that instant, the Erebus appeared behind his ship, silent and vast, a dark wall of death. Its hull shimmered with faint crimson light. The sight of it drained every drop of courage from Kalen's soul. He whispered, "No ship that large can move that fast." But it did. In seconds, the Erebus fired a single pulse. The beam tore through the Vasir Glory like paper. Splitting it in half a moment later, the planet below began to quake. The humans didn't use bombs or missiles. They used something worse, gravity compression weapons, invisible waves that crushed the planet's surface into molten glass. On Thalen Prime, the citizens looked up at the night sky and saw their stars fall. The ground shook, oceans rose in walls of fire, and the mighty city spires of the Vasir Empire melted under their own weight. There were no screams in space, only silence, and in that silence, the human fleet watched. No celebration, no emotion, only execution. When the dust cleared, an entire world had vanished from the galactic map. In its place was only a black scar, a reminder written in fire. Commander Alara Voss turned to her officers, her expression unreadable. "Target neutralized," she said quietly. Her first officer, a synthetic named K7, looked at her. "Shall I transmit the warning message to the council?" Alara nodded. "Yes, and make sure it's clear. Across the galaxy, every major channel, every comm network, and every relay received the same signal. A single line of text accompanied by the emblem of the Terran Defense Command. This was mercy, it read. Do not test our wrath again. In the council chamber, panic erupted. Reports poured in of destroyed fleets, of ghost ships appearing and disappearing like nightmares. Elder Sarath stared at the broadcast in silence, her eyes reflecting the burning remains of Thalon Prime. "They gave us a warning," she whispered. "And we laughed." Chancellor Vorath slammed his claws against the table. "We must retaliate." He roared. Before they reached the core worlds, but deep inside, even he knew retaliation meant nothing now. The galaxy's greatest fleets had been erased in minutes, and humanity hadn't even broken formation. The age of arrogance was over, and the age of fear had begun. Far away on the bridge of Erebus, Alara Voss stood in the dim light, staring at the void. Her voice was calm, her eyes cold. "One world down," she whispered. "And the council still thinks this is war." She turned away, her words fading into the hum of the engines. "This isn't war," she said. "It's a lesson." Far beyond the raging front lines, in the calm orbit of a pale blue planet, the ancient heartbeat of Earth stirred again. The oceans gleamed beneath silver clouds, and deep under the crust in the mountains of the old continents, something that had slept for ages began to wake. Buried beneath layers of reinforced steel and forgotten history, the Terran Core Command came alive. Lights flickered to life in a bunker older than memory. Holograms projected maps of the galaxy, and 1,000 encrypted channels unlocked themselves. One voice, human, steady, and cold, spoke through the awakening silence. "This is Earth Command," it said. "Authorization Omega Prime confirmed. All systems online." The Earth had not been destroyed, nor forgotten. It had been watching, learning, preparing in the quiet, letting the galaxy believe in its weakness, letting the legends fade into myth. Humanity had never been gone. It had simply gone silent. In a room filled with glowing screens, Admiral Marcus Hale stood alone, his uniform coated with the dust of centuries. He was one of the last cryo-commanders, reawakened when the fleet had sent its signal. His eyes, gray and unshaken, stared at the holographic image of Thalon Prime's destruction. "Voss moved faster than expected," he said quietly. Beside him, an AI projection flickered to life. The same network intelligence that had governed Earth since the Age of Silence. "Commander Voss executed Directive 9 precisely," it replied. She reminded them. Marcus sighed, his gaze distant. "And now the galaxy will drown in fear again." The AI's tone remained neutral. "Fear maintains order, Admiral, until it breeds revenge," he muttered. Outside on Earth's moon, the Atlas array came online for the first time in centuries. Massive orbital rings spanning thousands of kilometers began to glow. They were not weapons in the usual sense, they were amplifiers. Devices meant to broadcast one message across every known frequency, across the Milky Way. The same signal reached every outpost, colony, and world. The same phrase repeated in 100 languages, yet all understood its meaning. "We warned you." In the Galactic Council chamber, the message played on loop, haunting and relentless. The ambassadors shouted, argued, accused one another of provoking the humans, but none dared speak of vengeance. They all knew vengeance had already arrived. Elder Sarath stood by the window, watching her world's twin moons. "This is not destruction for conquest," she murmured. "This is judgment." Meanwhile, on Erebus, Commander Alara Voss received an encrypted channel from Earth. She stood still as the voice came through. A deep, familiar tone, aged but powerful. "Alara," the voice said. "This is Admiral Marcus Hale." Her eyes widened. "Admiral Hale, you survived for a time," he said. "But that's not important. You've done well. You reminded them who they mocked." Alara's jaw tightened. "They slaughtered colonies, Admiral. They erased our name from history." "Yes," Hale said. "But now they remember." The line went silent for a moment, and then his voice softened. "Do not let wrath blind you, Commander. Humanity's strength was never in its fury, but in its control." Alara said nothing, her eyes cold as the void outside. "The galaxy didn't want peace, Admiral. They wanted silence and then give it to them, he replied. But not through fire, through fear. A silence so deep they never dare speak our name again. The signal cut off. And for a long time the command deck of Erebus was silent. The crew waited for her command, watching the reflection of the stars in her eyes. Finally she spoke. Plot new coordinates, she ordered. Council homeworld. Arian Prime? Full fleet mobilization? Her officer asked. Alara looked out the window, where distant stars blinked faintly against the endless dark. No, she said quietly. Only us. Her voice was steady, calm, absolute. They must see one ship, one voice, and understand what that means. Far away in the heart of the galaxy, Arian Prime's scanners began to flicker again, detecting something vast approaching through subspace. The same cold message appeared on every screen. This is Earth Command, stand down and listen. In that moment, across thousands of worlds, time seemed to stop. The mocking, the pride, the laughter, all of it ended in the same silence that now echoed through every communication channel in the galaxy. Humanity had finally spoken, not in war, but in a single undeniable truth. They had been patient long enough. Arian Prime hung in the void like a jewel of arrogance, silver clouds and crystal towers gleaming across its surface. It was the proud heart of the Galactic Council, the seat of authority that had ruled thousands of worlds for centuries. But now that pride trembled, for a single shadow was coming. Across every defense satellite and scanner grid, one signal appeared, a reading so massive that systems failed to process it. The defense fleet, over 2,000 warships, formed a wall around the planet. Commanders barked orders, crews armed shields. The entire sky filled with engines and weapons ready to fire, and then it arrived. The Erebus emerged from the folds of space like a ghost born from the abyss. No engine glow, no heat, no sound. The stars dimmed around it, and even the light of Arian's sun seemed to bend away. The warship was colossal, ancient human design fused with something far beyond technology. Like a god forged from silence and vengeance, Chancellor Vorith stood on the command platform, staring at the readings. That ship cannot exist, he whispered. It defies every known metric, Elder Serath. Standing beside him, closed her eyes. It exists, she said. And it remembers. A voice cut through every frequency. Clear, calm, human. This is Commander Alara Voss, Terran Defense Command. The galaxy's most powerful world went quiet. Every voice silenced by that name. The message carried across every ship, every outpost, and even to the surface below, translated instantly into all known languages. For centuries, she said, you mocked us, erased us, called us primitive and small. Her voice never rose, yet every word felt like thunder in the bones of the listeners. When your fleets came to our skies, we did not answer. We waited. We let you laugh. We let you believe. She paused, the silence following her words more terrifying than the sound itself. And now, when your arrogance reaches its peak, you find us still here, inside the council hall. The delegates trembled. Some shouted for their fleets to attack. Others whispered prayers to forgotten gods. Admiral Kalen's replacement, young and proud, screamed over comms, fire at will! Destroy that ship. 1,000 beams of plasma and light tore across space, colliding with the Erebus. The impact was blinding, shaking the void itself. And when the light faded, the human ship was still there, untouched, unmoved. It was as if the universe itself refused to harm it. On the bridge, Alara stood motionless, her eyes fixed on Arian's surface. Their pride blinds them, she said quietly. They still believe they can silence us. Her officer K7 asked softly. Shall we retaliate, Commander? Alara shook her head. No, she said. Send the message. From the Erebus. A pulse of energy rippled outward. Not a weapon, but a transmission. It flooded every network, every data core, and every archive in the galaxy. The council members stared at their consoles as ancient footage began to play. Real images, not propaganda. Human soldiers standing among alien ruins. Fleets defending dying worlds. The screams of civilians they once saved. Humanity's history, unedited, unfiltered, forgotten by time and replaced by lies. The truth struck harder than any weapon. The council had painted Earth as savage when, in truth, it was humanity that had sacrificed itself to save the galaxy from extinction during the First Machine War. Humanity had burned its own fleets to stop an artificial plague. Humanity had chosen silence to protect the others from what it had buried. And now, as that truth spread across every world, the council realized what they had mocked: the restraint of a predator that had chosen peace over conquest. In the chamber, Elder Serath knelt, her voice trembling. "We have wronged them beyond forgiveness," Chancellor Vorath roared in defiance. "Lies. Manipulation." But even his voice shook with fear. Ilara's final words echoed through the transmission, calm and unbroken. "We do not seek your surrender," she said. "We seek your silence. If you speak our name again in mockery, if you raise your fleets toward Earth once more, there will be no warnings, no mercy, no survivors." The Erebus turned slowly, its hull gleaming like an eclipse, and as it departed, every alien sensor failed. Every satellite went blind. The fleet that had surrounded the planet found itself drifting helplessly, their systems dead, their power gone. The silence that followed was not the silence of peace. It was fear. On the surface of Arian Prime, Elder Serath whispered, "They could have destroyed us, but they chose not to." And somewhere far away, Ilara Voss stood on her bridge, watching the stars fade back into view. "We reminded them," she said softly. "Now let them remember." The Erebus vanished into the dark, leaving behind a galaxy that would never again dare to laugh at Earth. The galaxy changed after that day. Not through conquest, not through destruction, but through silence. The name Earth was no longer spoken aloud. Not in council meetings, not in markets, not even in whispers among soldiers. It had become a forbidden word, one that carried weight heavier than fear itself. On Arian Prime, the streets once filled with pride and laughter were now haunted by quiet. Statues of victory stood untouched but felt hollow. The council buildings remained, yet no one looked at the stars the same way. The memory of the Erebus hovering in their skies lived in every mind. Reports from across the sectors spoke of strange lights, shadowed vessels seen at the edge of colonies. Never firing, never speaking, they appeared for seconds, then vanished, as if just watching, reminding every world that the silence remained enforced. Elder Serath lived to see peace unlike any before it, not born of treaties but of fear. She would sometimes stand on her balcony and gaze at the heavens, her old eyes tracing constellations. "They guard us," she whispered once to her apprentice. "Not as friends, but as reminders." The apprentice frowned. "Reminders of what, Elder?" Serath smiled faintly. "That mercy can be more terrifying than war." Meanwhile, far beyond known space, the Erebus drifted through the void. Her black hull shimmered faintly with the reflection of distant suns. Inside, Commander Ilara Voss sat alone in her command chair, watching the stars slip by one after another. Her crew worked silently. No celebration, no triumph, only purpose. Humanity had not returned to rule the galaxy. They had returned to restore balance, a quiet balance written in fear. Ilara's officer, K7, approached her. "The Council fleets have withdrawn from Sol's borders, Commander. No further hostilities detected." "Good," she said softly. "Then the lesson is complete." K7 tilted its head slightly. "And what of Earth, Commander?" "The Admiral wishes to know if we will return home." Ilara turned her gaze to the dark expanse outside. "Home?" she murmured. "Earth is already safe. We are not needed there." "We are needed here in the shadows." She stood slowly, her reflection framed against the cold glow of the command bridge. "The galaxy needs the myth, not the presence. If they believe we vanished again, they will stay cautious. If they see us too long, they will forget their fear." She walked to the viewport, the stars stretching like rivers of fire. "Let Earth remain a whisper," she said. "Let silence be our strength far below." On Earth itself, the blue planet thrived quietly. Cities rebuilt under clean skies, oceans healed, and children grew up never knowing the fear their ancestors had once faced. Humanity had learned something even greater than vengeance: the power of restraint. In the halls of the Terran Corps Command, Admiral Marcus Hale looked at the galaxy map, now marked with red zones labeled simply as restricted. His hands rested behind his back as he whispered to himself, "We've bought them centuries." The AI beside him hummed softly. "Until they forget again," Hale smiled faintly. "Then we'll remind them again." Above him, the stars burned brighter, as if listening, as if remembering. On the far edge of the spiral arm, an explorer ship from an unknown species once dared to send a probe toward Sol space. The signal reached the border, and then vanished without trace. The next day, the same explorer found a single transmission playing on its main screen. A calm human voice said, "Boundary violated. Please retreat," the captain, pale and trembling, turned his ship away, he would later tell his people, "There are ghosts guarding that system," and none dared to question it. The galaxy had found peace through the most unlikely force. A silence that demanded respect, a quiet enforced not by violence, but by memory, and somewhere deep in the void, on the bridge of Erebus, Alara Voss whispered her final words to the stars. "We were mocked once," she said. "Now they listen." The ship drifted onward, swallowed by the endless dark, her engines fading into silence. The kind of silence that lasts for centuries. The kind of silence that carries the sound of humanity's wrath. And the galaxy would never laugh again,